Have you ever wondered what it looks like when an entire country basically reinvents money, not just for the tech nerds, but for literally everyone? Well, it looks a lot like India's Unified Payments Interface, or UPI. This system is so massive, it's not just changing how over 1 billion people pay for things, it's actually setting a whole new standard for digital money around the globe. So let's dive in and see how this whole thing actually works. Okay, get this. Every single day, UPI handles more than 640 million transactions. No, that is not a typo. That is a mind-boggling number. It represents millions upon millions of people buying their groceries, paying bills, sending money to family, all of it happening in just a few seconds. But to really wrap your head around that scale, we need a little perspective. That's right. This one system in one country processes more transactions every single day than the global payment giant Visa does worldwide. So the big question is, how is that even possible? How did a system that only launched in 2016 get this big this fast? And what's the magic happening behind the scenes every time you scan a QR code? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. All right, here's the plan. First, we're going to meet the key players that make UPI tick. Then, we'll follow the incredible 10-second journey your money takes with every payment. We'll also look at the fortress of security that's built around it, see how UPI is constantly changing and getting better, and finally, we'll explore how this Indian innovation is now going global. You know, the best way to understand UPI is to think of it like a team sport. It's not just one company or one single app. It's a whole ecosystem of different players, and each one has a very specific job to do, all working together to get that payment from your account to the merchants in the blink of an eye. So first up, you've got the referee, the NPCI, which stands for the National Payments Corporation of India. These are the folks who created UPI, and now they manage the entire playing field. They don't actually hold any of the money themselves. Instead, they make sure every single transaction follows the rules and gets routed to exactly the right place. You can basically think of them as the air traffic control for the whole UPI network. Next, we have the coaches. That's your bank and the receiver's bank. They're the ones who are actually the keepers of the money. So when you go to make a payment, it's your bank that verifies your secret PIN, it checks if you have enough funds, and it's the one that actually moves the money out of your account. So how does your app on your phone talk to your bank? That's where the payment service providers, or PSPs, come into play. Think of them as the absolutely essential bridges in this whole operation. They take the request from your payment app, connect it to the core UPI network that's run by NPCI, and they're also the ones who create your unique UPI ID, the one that looks like your name at bank. And finally, you have the players out on the field. These are the apps you know and use every day, like Google Pay, PhonePe, and Paytm. Officially, they're called third-party application providers. They give you that simple, clean interface that you interact with, but they're not the ones processing the payment. They just pass your request along to their PSP partner, who does all the heavy lifting in the background. Okay, so now that we've met the whole team, let's actually see them in action. What really happens in those few seconds between you hitting pay on your phone and the shopkeeper getting that payment successful notification? Let's trace the journey. It all kicks off the second you tap pay. First, your app, working through its PSP, scrambles your data for security and sends the payment request to the referee, NPCI. Instantly, NPCI zips that request over to your bank. Your bank then checks your PIN, checks your balance, and if it's all good, it pulls the money from your account and sends a thumbs up back to NPCI. Finally, NPCI tells the receiver's bank, hey, put this money in their account. The whole thing, from start to finish, less than 10 seconds. It's an absolutely beautiful, choreographed digital dance. All right, with billions of these transactions happening all the time, the most important question has to be, is it actually safe? And UPI's answer is a really powerful, multi-layered security model. It's not just one lock on the door, it's more like a fortress, built with this idea of defense in depth, where every layer of security backs up the others. So let's look at how these layers work together. First off, your app is tied directly to your specific phone, so nobody can just log in from some other device. Second, every single payment requires two-factor authentication, something you have, your phone, and something you know, your secret PIN. Third, all of your data is encrypted from end to end. And on top of all that, NPCI uses AI to spot fraud in real time, and the whole system is regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. So how does this security stack up against other ways you might pay for things? Well, as you can see here, UPI's model is pretty unique in how robust it is. The real game changer is that combination of mandatory device binding and a secret PIN for every single transaction. That, plus the incredibly strict vetting process for any app that wants to join the network, just puts it in a different league. But here's the thing. UPI didn't just show up one day fully formed. It's not a static system that was just built and left alone. Nope, it's a living technology that has been constantly evolving since day one, adding new features and reaching more and more people with every single update. It all started back in 2016 with simple person-to-person transfers. Then, UPI 2.0 came along and brought in cool features like autopay for your subscriptions. Then, in 2022, in a huge leap for financial inclusion, they launched UPI 123 Pay, which brought payments to 400 million people using basic feature phones, no internet required. And now, UPI 3.0 is adding things like credit lines and offline payments, making it even more powerful. And all of that innovation has led to this, just explosive, almost unbelievable growth. I mean, look at this. From just 3.7 billion transactions in all of 2018, UPI skyrocketed to nearly 39 billion in 2021. And by 2024, it's projected to process around 140 billion transactions. This isn't just growth, it's a full-blown revolution in how an entire nation handles its money. But the UPI story doesn't stop at India's borders. What started out as a payment system for just one country is now becoming one of India's most important tech exports. It's a blueprint for how other countries can build their own open digital public infrastructure. And this isn't just some idea for the future, it's already happening. Indian tourists can now use UPI to pay for things in places like Singapore and the UAE. You can even use it to buy tickets at the Eiffel Tower in France. Meanwhile, countries like Bhutan and Nepal have actually adopted the underlying UPI framework for their own payment systems. This is no longer just an Indian story, it's a global one. And, maybe nothing captures UPI's global significance more than this. When Google advised the US Federal Reserve to look at UPI as the model for its own real-time payment system, that was a huge signal. UPI is now pretty much the benchmark for what a modern public and open digital payment network can look like. And this brings us to one last really powerful thought. UPI has proven what's possible when you build a digital public good that's open, that works with everything, and that's incredibly low cost. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What would global finance look like if every country had a payment system this simple and this powerful? If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more simple, useful insights into the tech that's shaping our world, make sure you subscribe to Refreshing Tech. Thanks for watching.